Hi, I'm Lisa Eddy, your host of the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle Podcast. I'm so glad that you've made your way here and that I'm now sharing these podcasts here on YouTube. In my 25 years in the beauty industry, I have worked with thousands of women. I have witnessed so many beautiful, powerful, smart, and kind women who are hiding instead of shining. My mission is to empower you to own your true power and beauty inside and out, to be truly confident and shine through your skin. Lord knows the world needs your light. I'm committed to helping you understand the choices that you are making that are working for or against you. I'll also be sharing beauty tips and tools your mother never taught you, and together we will bust urban beauty myths. Make sure to subscribe today to receive episodes right when they are released. For those who prefer listening to the audio podcast, head over to sacredbeautylifestyle.com. That's sacredbeautylifestyle.com, and you can find the platform of your choice. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle Podcast. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of bringing Amira Morales here today. She is an Ayurvedic health coach. And through personal health challenges, she found the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda and was able to connect the dots of her symptoms and obtain well-being again. She now empowers women to see their kitchen as their pharmacy, sleep as medicine, movement as well-being, mindfulness practices as a powerful tool, self-care as vital, and connection to Pachamama as healing. Yes, sister, welcome.
Hello, Lisa. I am so excited to connect with you and your audience, and feel so blessed to be able to share my knowledge of Ayurveda, and hope it resonates with someone out there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Ayurveda is such a beautiful healing practice. I think many of us may know a little bit about it, self included, and there's so much depth to it. And I think it is so important. So I'm really happy to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm super excited to share. I think a lot of people have heard about. I'm sure a lot of your audiences have done yoga, and Ayurveda is just the sister science to yoga, along with Jyotish, which is the astrology component of as well. So there's the three Vedic sisters.
Will you say the name of the astrology again?
I hope I'm pronouncing it right, and I'm sorry if I've blasted it. It's Jyotish, as far as I know. Yeah,
Okay, I'm not familiar with the name. I just always heard it called Vedic astrology. So thank you.
no worries.
Yeah, I wonder if you could share a little bit about your journey and what brought you to where you are today, doing and sharing this beautiful work with the world.
Yeah, so my story, I guess, is quite colorful with lots of twists and turns, but looking back, there's nothing that I would change about it. So, my family and I left Peru due to terrorism in the 90s and headed to Sydney, Australia. So, hence my accent. But from a very young age, I remember I had this deep desire to really help people, and this rolled over into adulthood, and I just didn't know how to channel this energy. So at the age of 23, I went to live and work in Laos for Child Fund Australia. Then I went to volunteer at an orphanage in Cambodia, and then I ended up right here in Peru working for an NGO that looked after women and children who were victims of domestic abuse. And I can easily say that this was like one of the most amazing highlights of my life. But then I ran out of money and I had no choice than to head back to Australia. And the lure of the corporate world was too difficult to ignore for me. And climbing the corporate ladder felt amazing. And with each new role, I became more distant from my desire to help. And to be honest, Lisa, I kind of lost myself in the corporate world, and the repercussions would eventually become, quite obvious. And looking back, I now realize that, I didn't listen to the whispers of the universe. I ignored the first little tap, which came in the form of indigestion, a weak immune system because I was constantly getting sick, anxiety. I felt cold all the time. I started losing like a lot of my hair. Then the universe decided to give me a little pinch because clearly I wasn't listening to the first whispers. And that came in the form of hypothyroid, insomnia. I felt tired all the time. I was undergoing a lot of stress. I even had candida. Then I came down to like a really low body weight and I had amenorrhea. For about 8 months, I ended up losing my cycle. So it's really important for us to all kind of listen to the whispers of the universe. And then finally, the universe gave me a slap across the face and sent me to hospital due to burnout and a whole host of vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And to me, there's no bigger wake up call than staring at the ceiling of a hospital room, realizing that I had no one to blame but myself because I pushed my body to its absolute limit. And I think as women, we kind of tend to do this. And I keep hearing a lot from my clients, that they don't listen to the whispers. And it was really, really a really challenging time for me because once I was released from the hospital, I went from specialist to specialist trying to really find answers. And the only answer to me seemed to be prescription medication. Nobody was able to get to the root cause of my symptoms. And I became increasingly frustrated because I thought surely there's more to life than, just having prescription medication. And I guess during this time, I had to really look at different aspects of my life and had to take back control of my health, my life, and my happiness. And I think during this stage of my life, I started to question absolutely everything in my life, and I thought, surely there's more to life than going to uni, finding a job, getting married, having kids, paying taxes, looking forward to my 4 weeks of annual leave a year, and then sitting in a nursing home until my next stage of life. No? So then a week later, I kind of just thought something has to give, and my job is obviously not working for me. It's actually working against me. And then a week later, I resigned, and 6 weeks after that, I was on a plane to Bangalore, India, to become a yoga teacher. Which had been like a really big dream of mine. So my initial plan was 6 weeks, but it turned into a 9-month trip because I connected so deeply with India. And for sure, now looking back, I have had a previous life there. And I was about 4 weeks into my trip in India when I got really sick. And through a series of fortunate events, I ended up at an Ayurvedic clinic. And as soon as I stepped into his clinic, I thought, this is probably a little bit too woo-woo for me. And especially with the questions that he was asking me, like, what are your dreams like? What are your parents' health history like? What do you crave? What are your thoughts like? What are your sleep like? And I was just like, I just don't know if this is for me, no? And he took my pulse, read my tongue, and then he looked straight into my eyes and said, he started outlining all these things. And I was like, wow, I didn't even tell him I was going through all of that. How did he know? Like, now he had my attention. So I went from like really woo-woo to like, okay, what's going on here kind of thing. So that was really interesting. And he said to me, you have a severe vata imbalance and you have two choices. You can keep going in the same direction and be faced with infertility, Alzheimer's, arthritis, or you can start taking control of your own health today and start preventing disease. And to me, it was kind of like a no-brainer, no? And all I could think about was like, wow, how on earth did I spend so much money on specialist appointments, so much energy, and this beautiful Indian doctor in the middle of Dharamshala just said to me like, this is what you've got, and I just felt for the first time really, really understood. And so then I went and took all his recommendations and he said, you have to follow this to a T. Food will be delivered to you each day. You will do these kind of yoga asanas. You will meditate this time throughout the day. You will focus on really resting. And within 2 weeks, I felt so much better. And I remember one night kind of hysterically crying in my room because for the first time ever, I felt connected to my body. And that's when I thought, surely if I am going through this, many other women are also going through this because I surely can't be the only one. And that's kind of when I made a promise to myself that one day I'm going to be an Ayurvedic practitioner. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, I just knew that this was going to be for me. And I really want to help women get to the root cause of, their health issues. Because after like that 2 weeks was up, I then entered his 21-day Panchakarma, which is like a detox at his spa. Now, this is no spa at the Hilton. Like, this is probably one of the toughest things I've done next to Vipassana and ayahuasca sessions, and this program really taught me that Ayurveda is about becoming a better witness to what's happening internally and externally, no? So here we are, fast forward 5 years, and I am an Ayurvedic health coach. I live in a magical place of Peru. I am surrounded by mountains. My happy place is ecstatic dance. I use plant medicine to, keep healing. I'm learning to dance between the masculine and the feminine. I'm connecting with Pachamama, as you mentioned, and as you know. And I love really nourishing my body with delicious home cooked meals. And I would say that I am easily like the healthiest that I have ever been, now approaching my 40s, because now I have the knowledge and the tools to come back into balance. And above all, I'm kind of like really following my dharma. So now I kind of realize that my health challenges were a gift, because it's something that I had to overcome to get to where I am today, to really share my message from a place of love, experience, and compassion. And the reality is that part of being healthy is getting sick. I've never met a wellness practitioner, a Reiki healer, a yoga teacher with outstanding health. And we all kind of have to go through this, dark night of the soul to really come out the other side and shine bright.
Yes, and I think it's all part of the human experience. Like we are still here, though we are souls on a physical journey. We are all still here on planet Earth in physical bodies. We do experience ailments. And, like what you shared, I absolutely love that. I don't love that you went through this experience, but I love that you made the
Yeah,
connection and, understand that you weren't listening because we're not taught to listen. We haven't been taught to decode what our body is saying to us because it's constantly speaking to us.
totally.
And though it was a pretty intense journey that you went through, that I would say that many go through, and fortunately you were able to get the reprieve and the answers, and it sounds like you had some serious divine guidance guiding you to India. And really, like I heard you say, it sounded like that was a dream for a long time to go to India. So these dreams we have, these dreams we have for a reason. I want to highlight that because that sounded like that was also part of your disconnect in health, was not really listening to what was in alignment for you, what was in your highest goal, your purpose, your what's pulling on your heartstrings. So for those of you listening, really paying attention to that journey and that message of what lights me up, what is calling me. And when we push that away and try to do what we think we're supposed to do to make the money, to get the job, to be successful, to whatever it is, if it's not in alignment for you, there is a price to pay.
Absolutely. And I totally kind of, yeah, that's actually a really nice way of summing it all up, no? And I think one of a critical time for me was when a really beautiful, dear mentor of mine said to me, like, what do you really want to do in life? And I was like, I've always wanted to be a yoga teacher. But then the criticism, the self doubt all kicks in. And she's like, well, how long have you been wanting to do that for? And I was like, maybe like easily like 2, 3 years. And she was like, well, you're 2, 3 years too late. Better get your skates on. And I think that was the motivation that I needed to be like, okay, I'm resigning. And there was a kind of a scary component to it as well, because I had this really high paying job. I kept, climbing the corporate ladder. And also I'm coming from a very Latin background. So in a way, like I was living for my parents as well. And it wasn't until like I cut those cords that I was freed and I was ready to continue living my dharma. And I didn't know what it was at that time. All I knew was that life that I had in Sydney was doing a disservice to me.
That's such an important component as well, or key piece to highlight, is that you were living someone else's dream.
Hmm.
Sure, you were living the dream, but it wasn't your dream, right?
Yeah,
So, whose dream are we living? And
totally,
it doesn't just come from our parents, it also comes from the imprints of society.
totally.
So, I think that's also something really important and valuable in your story, and how the universe speaks to us in whispers. I was just having this conversation with another soul sister I interviewed on the
Yeah,
podcast. And when we don't listen, we kind of get smacked upside the head after a while with a 2x4.
yeah.
And so, can you start to listen? Can you allow yourself to start to listen and ask the right questions? For those of you listening, can you listen to what your body is sharing with you? Sometimes it's terribly inconvenient.
Totally, totally, absolutely. And one of the other things was that my Ayurvedic doctor made me really realize that health is actually not the end goal, but rather health is used as the vehicle that will get you to live your dharma, your purpose, your life's desire, no? Because when you have all these health issues, your life is consumed with food and diet, and you forget the big picture. And the big picture really is that you are here to live your best life. So that's another key component. We're so obsessed with health, but really, like, what is your health? What's your end goal with it?
I love that. I hadn't thought of it in that way. I mean, I know it's vital to everything that you want to do, and I subscribe to it. I mean, look at the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle podcast. It's all of the things that you were highlighting in your bio, right? That's our true beauty, is when we're feeling good and looking good. And yet hadn't really thought about putting it in that way. Of course, that's the vehicle, that your health is the vehicle to taking you to manifesting your dreams, your dharma, your purpose, right? Is that how we can use dharma? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, in Sanskrit, it has like 16 definitions, but Dharma, the one that I use, is, how to live your life's purpose, because we've all come here with a purpose. It's just that sometimes we get taken off the highway and we go somewhere else, money, career, whatever it is, no?
Right. While we're on the definition of some of these Sanskrit words, which brings me to something hilarious,
Yeah.
I write really messy, and I always say, I hope you can read Sanskrit as a joke. uh, so I wonder if we could define something else. You talked about the doshas, and you talked about you having your vata was really out of balance. And I understand there are three doshas, like constitutions: vata, pitta, kapha. Is it valuable for you to share a little bit about that with our listeners here?
Yeah, of course. So, Ayurveda is an ancient medical system that started like 5,000 years ago. And it started, I think, like in the south of India, and then it made its way through. But really, it looks at, preventing disease. In the West, we kind of go to the doctor when the disease is already eventuated, and sometimes it's a little bit too late. But the key of Ayurveda is for you to really prevent disease. And it's about a holistic approach. So it just doesn't look at like the liver as one. When you go to the doctor, they just focus on one organ of the body and try and fix that. Ayurveda is a holistic approach. So it looks at the body, mind, and spirit. And I realized that when I was going through my health challenges, all of that was disconnected. I was disconnected from all three. So really, Ayurveda is about coming back into balance. And we do have the three doshas, but they are based on the five elements, which surround us and with which are in our bodies. So air, ether, fire, water, and earth then go on to make the three doshas. So vata is predominantly the wind energy, no? So when we are in balance, we can be super creative, we can think outside the box, we're kind of really light in the body, we're really like go-getters, travelers. But when we are out of balance, it means that the air dosha has gone out of balance. So it has increased. So this can look like anxiety, like insomnia, like constipation, like racing thoughts, and just being a little bit all over the place. And you can really tell when somebody is out of balance is when Lisa, you might bump into them and they might say to you like, oh, Lisa, like, I really want to write a cookbook. And you're like, fantastic. And then you bump into them in 3 months and they're like, no, I'm going to go to Thailand and meditate in a cave for 6 months. And then you're like, okay, cool. And then you might bump into them and they want to be like, a yoga teacher. So many thoughts, so many things happening, and they're living up here because the wind energy is increased. So what they need is more grounding, right? So frustration comes from when we have so many ideas, we don't know how to channel it. So the idea is to ground, So and the way we do this is through grounding practices. We have really grounding foods, literally foods that are grown under the ground. One of the things that I love for my high vata dosha clients is ghee. So really warm, nourishing, easy to digest food. So this was actually given to me by my doctor. And once I started incorporating this, like, I felt like my whole body just grounded because I was up here all the time, no? And then the next dosha is the pitta dosha. So the pitta dosha is characterized by fire. So sometimes these are CEOs, go-getters, leaders, and they can be like, they focus on a goal and they go after it But when we are out of balance, it means that the fire energy has increased. So this can look like anger, like frustration, like having plans and then somebody kind of says to you like, oh, I can't make it today. You get really frustrated about that. So the idea with a pitta dosha is to cool them down, coconut oil, aloe vera, pomegranate, watermelon, really cooling practices, because they're the first ones to go to like F54. And then we have the kapha dosha, which is predominantly like the earth dosha. So way too much grounding. No, they can be really like nurturing. They are the ones that give you like the 10-minute hugs where you're like, okay, I don't know where this is ending, and they're just like breathing into your hug. They have really like encouraging words. And then when they're out of balance, they can sometimes suffer from depression. So they're too busy looking after other people that they forget to look after by themselves. If you leave a group of kaphas, for example, they might just like Netflix and chill all day. So they need a little bit more like oomph in their life, a bit more turmeric, ginger. Let's go out and do some like running and stuff. So as you can see, everything in Ayurveda is about creating balance, because when we go in excess of one, then we need to bring that one back and probably, lift this one up. So it's really important to say that we have all three doshas within us. So we just have to find out that one that has gone out of balance and bring it back.
Oh, thank you. That was a beautiful explanation. And just to recap, I understand you're saying, and I know this myself, that we have a particular dosha that is sort of assigned to us. It's
Mm-hmm.
how we came in, and then we can get those out of balance. So we can then you could be going through a crisis and experiencing anxiety and PTSD because of a trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and then that would take you into your vata or something like that. So I
Exactly.
think that's so important for people to understand how to work with our innate way of being and what serves us, and then understanding that other things come up at different times and we might need something different. I think that's the beauty of having practitioners that actually really know what they're doing,
Yeah.
and really
Yeah.
learning to listen to yourself, right?
Yeah, and other things that can bring you out of balance as well is, as you mentioned, lifestyle choices, diet, stress factors, seasons as well. So even though I'm a Vata now and then I go and live in Sri Lanka, then, that the season has something to do with it as well.
Right, because of the heat in
Mm-hmm.
Sri Lanka,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of taking out some, or like balancing some of your windy energy, your air
Exactly.
energy. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
cool. Love it. Uh, I know, some of the things that you speak about, and I feel we are both passionate about, is sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Is sleep. We talked about sleep being, I think it's incredibly underrated. I think it's undervalued and
Mm-hmm.
deprioritized. And I wonder if you could speak to the value of the sleep, the problems when we don't get enough sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was going through my detox in India, I clearly remember that one of the first things my doctor tackled was my sleep, because according to Ayurveda, sleep is more important than exercise and diet combined. Like to me, this was like it blew my mind, right? Because in the West, we're so used to putting so much emphasis on diet, keto, raw vegan, da da da, that we forget to overlook, as you mentioned, sleep. And then we have sayings like, I'll sleep when I die, right? I keep hearing that and I'm like, wow, okay. So when your sleep is actually restored, it has a ripple effect on other things. So I remember when I started sleeping better, I had more energy, I felt calmer, my skin literally started to glow, I got sick less, and I was able to think clearly. And this is exactly why sleep is actually one of the pillars of my 3-month program. And I'm finding more and more people who express that they are struggling with sleep, and it's really concerning, because if we only knew about the benefits, we would really start to focus our attention on improving our sleep. Now, I'm actually not sure when you're going to air this episode, Lisa, but we are recording it close to the full moon, like tomorrow is a full moon. So, and this is quite a notorious time to have your sleep disturbed. Or if not, people really have quite vivid dreams. So Pachamama has something to do also with your sleep patterns, but sleep, it's the most restorative and healing part of your day. It restores your muscles, it detoxifies your body, it balances your hormones, it relaxes your mind and your body, and it actually prepares it for the next day. And a common question that I get asked during my consults is, how many hours should I sleep a night? And this is such an interesting question because in the West, we're so obsessed with numbers. How many calories should I have? How much water should I drink? How many hours should I sleep? Yada, yada, yada. But Ayurveda does not look at that one bit. Ayurveda looks at quality. So when people ask me that question, I always answer with, well, how do you feel when you wake up? Do you feel energized, restored, ready to, start your day? Or do you feel tired and rested at all? Because I have clients who have had like 6 hours of sleep and feel amazing, and I've had clients who have 9 hours and they could go for another 9 hours.
Yeah, I'm still blown away with that, the phrase that you shared from Ayurveda, or the mindset and philosophy rather, that sleep is more important than exercise and diet combined. Is that what we heard?
Exactly.
Okay. I feel like that bared repeating. Wow. I know that it is so important, and I understand and see it because, having worked with clients for so long in beauty, and of course, our skin shows what is going on inside of our body.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's the place sometimes you can't mask it. When you're not well, you'll have ailments, whether it's acne or rashes or puffiness or darkness under the eyes, or different issues that can surface. And sometimes just when you're tired, you just don't look good. Like you don't look your most vibrant, radiant, beautiful self,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that, I feel like, is also representative of how your organs feel.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're spot on. And I know when I haven't had any rest, like one of the first places I look at is like my mood and what my skin looks like. And I'm like, okay, probably need to sleep. And sometimes I get super creative at nights and I forget that, I really need to sleep and have a good solid sleep routine.
I love you that you brought that in about the creative piece, sort of keeping you up sometimes because you're following inspiration. And yes, this does happen. I,
Mm.
I find that a lot of creative, intuitive beings often really like to be up in the wee hours of the night or early mornings. It's like one or the other, staying up way too late or getting up super duper early
Yeah.
before the city or town is awake, so to speak, because then the interference of everyone else's energy and the planet being online isn't there. So you
Hmm.
can really tap into source, spirit, creativity much easier, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So it's okay on occasion, right? Like this could happen on occasion, but then really on a regular basis, like you said, having those routines and habits. And I wonder if you could speak a little bit about routines or habits, like what disturbs your sleep and what can help it.
Yeah. Where do I start? So it's super interesting, because another question that I get asked quite a lot is like, what can I take to sleep more? And this is something which is super interesting because in the West, we're so used to going to the doctor and getting prescription medication for anything. So it seems to me that we have replaced reliance on something like pharmaceutical for something like supplements and herbs and stuff, where the key is actually to look at your diet, your movement throughout the day, meditation, breath work, self care practices, and sleep hygiene. But of course, most people really want the easy way out. And my approach is more of like a natural, holistic one. So I think the first key to understanding your sleep is that your sleep actually begins as soon as you wake up. What? What does that mean? Right? Because we're so used to just like focusing on our sleep, maybe like two hours before we actually go to bed, no? But Ayurveda actually pushes it all the way back up to the beginning of your day, because the way you begin your day is actually going to set you up for the rest of the day, So if you wake up, you're doing your morning practices, you're having, a good, nourishing, easy to digest breakfast, then you're having lunch at a certain time and dinner at a certain time, and you keep that routine going, then you're actually teaching your body, okay, cool. So we're having breakfast at 7, we're having lunch at 12, and then dinner at 6, as opposed to like, well, today we might have breakfast at 9, at 6, at 10. This is throwing your body out of whack. So it's really important for us to follow like, a really solid day with times that we're eating throughout the day at exactly the same time, and we follow that. So this is really you connecting with your body, no? And it's really important for us to, when we look at our diets as well, to have a diet that is in accordance with your unique dosha. It's easy to digest, it's warm, it's cooked, and incorporating the 6 tastes of Ayurveda. So that's kind of like the component of, diet in Ayurveda. And obviously not eating too late at night, because then we're just going, to sleep with our body full, and that can also disturb your sleep. So normally for breakfast, it's considered something lightish, and then at lunch having probably your heaviest meal, and then at dinner it's having like a light soup, or a stew of some description, so something super nourishing but also light for the body, not to digest. And also exercising in the morning is really key, and something that Ayurveda really promotes, because sometimes, we might be just finishing work and then we might be like, oh, I'll just go to the gym. But really, what this is doing is you might be going to bed a little bit wired, that tired and wired feeling, because, there's been so much going on. So if you focus on your exercise early in the day, then that's going to have a better outcome for you. So you will actually physically feel tired by the time you actually go to bed.
Such great pointers. It's so interesting the way that we are trained, and sad really that we are trained to rely on so many outside sources. What can I take? And I'm thinking, well, it's also what can I not take?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe, I actually laid down coffee right now
Mm-hmm.
for, I don't know, I might not come back to it. I might treat it, as one of my girlfriends and I are talking about, as a delicacy, where it's something I have on occasion,
Mm-hmm.
because coffee and your caffeine can keep us wired, right? Or even alcohol right before bed, like you were saying, like not eating,
Yeah.
right before bed. But it's just, we're so trained often to think of what can I take to do it, instead of looking at all of those beautiful guidelines that you just shared. So thank you. I love it.
Yeah.
um, I wonder if there's any tip that you would share with our listeners who are listening to you and thinking, I feel like I have gotten away from my heart's desire, or I don't even know what my body is saying to me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not listening. Maybe this is something is pulling on their heartstrings, but this is a new language that you're speaking.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to maybe get started?
I think, like, along with the other things that I've mentioned before, I think a digital detox, like 1 to 2 hours before bed, is super important, no? And I think, like, as much as, I love being online and connecting with my audience and just being really active, our mobile phones are actually kind of running our lives. I don't know if this happens to you, but there's been times where I'm like, I don't even know why I'm picking up my phone. All I'm like, I know that I'm picking up my phone. I'm like, why? Oh, that's right. And so it's really important for us to have this digital detox like an hour or two before we go to bed. But then we find ourselves like, what do we do with our hands, right? But my tip for my clients is always like, think about, doing yoga nidra, foam rolling. Foam rolling before bed is absolutely amazing, no? Meditation, breath work, or even having like a self-care routine. Like in Ayurveda, we really encourage people to do Abhyanga, which is a self-oil massage. So you have, you put the oil and you rub it all over your body, depending on, your dosha, of course, and your imbalance. And then you just leave it on your skin, no? And then you might go and have like a warm shower or a bath. And the idea of this is, especially with a shower, is that your pores will actually open up, absorb the oil, and then, your skin is your largest organ. So that's going to really, your body is going to really thank you for that. So that's one practice that I really recommend. And it's really important for us to really follow the circadian rhythms of nature. No, right now, I feel like our routines are a little bit all over the place. And quite often we are going to bed at irregular times. And it's really important for us. Like in Ayurveda, we encourage going to bed before 10 a.m. 10 p.m. And because then the pitta time kicks in. And I don't know if this has happened to you, Lisa, but sometimes if you go to bed after 10, you might actually be like cleaning mode, going to get something to eat, start doing something else. No, that means that the pitta time has kicked in.
we would call it perhaps our second wind. And you're
Exactly.
saying the fire gets reactivated is what I'm hearing you say. If you don't listen to that or subscribe to the natural circadian rhythms when it's getting dark
Hmm.
outside,
Hmm.
it's also our nighttime. Oh, I love that. Yes, I actually just had that happen recently. I blew it. So
Yeah,
it happens to the best of us.
absolutely. Yeah. I
Um,
get in a cleaning mode and I'm like, what's in the fridge and stuff. So I know that, at least, I need to be in bed by like 9:30 and then do breath work, read a book or whatever it is.
yes, that is the perfect suggestion. And is this true? It's my understanding that there's a second sweep of digestion that occurs at night. Is it around? I know that our healing hormones, I believe, are released between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m.
Yeah, and that's the pitta
Is
time in
that true?
Ayurveda as well, right? So, and this is
Ah,
why we need to go to bed before that, because if we snack around 11, 12, then we're in the pitta time, and that's when we start to, gain weight. And just really throw our hormones out of balance. And you'll notice that nightclubs, for example, they start opening at 10 p.m., right? That's when the second energy is coming through. 10 to 2 p.m. is usually like back in the days when I used to go out. That's when I used to really, dance and move and all that kind of stuff. So we want to get to bed before then so we don't run into the pitta time.
I know. I'd like to have morning clubs. Can we start dancing? Like, can we wake up and dance? Can we get this started? Like Ayurvedic dance parties? No,
Yeah,
I love to dance, but it's not great for me
yeah,
to go out late or dance late. And even dance classes, I like that you reminded us to, working out in the morning is really ideal.
yeah.
And wow, that was like a deeper understanding of how the fire works in the body at night when you're sleeping during that 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. It's burning through some of whatever is left in the body for digestion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what might be,
Mm-hmm.
as well as regenerating all of your organs. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Spot on. So
Mm,
it's funny when you
mm.
look at the elements and the doshas, everything kind of seems to make sense, no? Doshas as in your constitution, Pachamama, she's got her own rhythms of nature as well. So we need to be kind of in tune with all of that, no?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
I wonder, is there something that you would go back and whisper in the ear of your 20-year-old self, something that you wish that she knew back then?
Just stop caring about what other people think.
Hallelujah.
I remember when I was 20, I was constant, and I'm a Cancer, so I'm constantly like, getting, gratification from other people or encouragement or whatever it is, no? So if I could whisper to her, is just like, stop caring what people think, what you look like, just you're in your own lane.
Yeah, love it. And what is your big message that you would scream from mountaintops that you want the whole world to know?
Follow your dharma. That's really, really important. I
Mm.
think we all came here with a purpose, and I don't want to be like in my nursing home looking back at life and I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have been like this. And there's a book, the Regrets of the Dying or something like that. I can't remember. Excellent book. I
Yeah.
highly recommend everybody to read that because it would really bring things back into to reality, and the things that you're probably worried about don't really matter. And just, yeah, follow your dharma.
Mm. Love it. Thank you. And where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so I have a private Facebook group called Ayurveda for Professional Women, and I love to hang out in there. So, this is the kind of stuff that I really love to talk about, digestion, stress, health, beauty, movement. So, if you are interested or if this has resonated with you today, come and join me and let's hang out.
Fantastic. I think I'm going to come hang out there with
Yeah,
you.
come and hang out.
All of Amira's information will be in the show notes. It has been such an absolute pleasure to share this time with you. And thank you for sharing so much of your beautiful wisdom with the Sacred Beauty Podcast listeners.
Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate your time.
I'm Lisa Eddy, your host of the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle Podcast, which is now being shared here on YouTube. I hope this episode brought you insights and inspiration to radiate and shine with confidence. Remember to subscribe so you receive new episodes hot off the press right when they are released. And follow me on Instagram for more juicy tips at I am Lisa Eddy. Also, ladies and gentlemen, when you subscribe, like, and share these episodes, it helps me to get seen by more people. And that means a lot to me because I am committed to reaching millions of women across the globe and waking them up to the sacred beauty lifestyle, owning their true power and beauty, both inside and out. Now more than ever, we need more women shining instead of hiding. When we band together, we are unstoppable. This is how we change the world, together. Remember the sacred beauty lifestyle and get on out there and shine. The world needs your light.